Hey guys, this is Alex Gomez, your favorite teacher in the whole world. Today I'm gonna be showing you how to use your positive and negative numbers when using multiplying and dividing rational numbers. So this is what we're gonna do. How do you use your multiplication signs and your division signs? Because now we're talking about rational numbers and not just positives. Now we're gonna start looking at negatives the whole time, and there's a lot of very common mistakes. So, for instance, if I have 3 times 6, just simple. What is the answer for that? 3 times 6 is?
18.
18. Very good. Now, I'm gonna start introducing negatives. So if I have negative 3 times 6, my answer is gonna be what?
Negative 18.
Negative 18. Very good. But how do we know that?
Because it's a triangle.
Because there's a triangle. Okay, I'm hearing some of strategies. Very good. What if I have negative 6 times 3? What is my answer?
Negative 18.
Negative 18. So anybody says it's positive? Does
No,
anybody
because
think
that's a negative on the side.
Because a negative, right?
Because it's higher. It's a higher number.
It's a higher number. I don't want you to think like that because that's one of the common mistakes. Now you're talking about adding and subtracting. That's different. Okay? So, 6 times 3. I'm doing the same numbers because I need you to understand. The answer is going to be the same number. Now we focus on the positive and negative. Now, negative and the positive is going to be negative. What if I have negative 6 times negative 3? What is my answer going to be? Yes, sir.
Positive 18.
Negative.
Negative. Some of you say negative.
It's negative.
Some of you say
Positive.
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 Oh my
Because
God.
you do a triangle,
Yeah,
and you cross out the both negatives, and there's just a
Okay,
positive.
so yeah, the answer is actually positive 18. Now, so we kind of have a really good understanding, and that's a really good thing. So I'm going to explain how this works. If I write the number 18 right here, like that, is that positive or negative?
Negative.
What if I just write it like this?
Positive.
Positive. Even if you don't have the sign, it is still positive. So you need to keep that in mind when you're doing these problems, guys, right? So if you don't have a sign in front of it, it's automatically a positive. Now, if you have a positive 18, well, duh, it's just positive 18, right?
Yeah.
So keep those in mind. So now, how do we come up with that? We have, no, I'm not gonna do that. Okay. So, some of you were talking about a triangle, and if I'm not mistaken, you have a triangle right here. You have a plus, a minus, and a minus, right? And that actually works really well whenever you only have two things,
Yes.
right? So in this case, I have a positive and a positive. So how would you do it on a triangle? Which one would you cross out?
You don't need
What's
the
the
triangle
I mean,
because
what's the
negative. But you don't need a triangle because like it's.
They're positives, right? So you only use it whenever you have a negative involved, right? So in this case, you have a negative and a positive, so you cross out
Cross out
the negative
and a positive.
and the positive, and your answer is
Negative.
negative, okay? Now let's do it again. So you have a negative and a positive, right? For this one, you have a negative and a positive, so you cross out the negative again and the positive, and your answer is still negative. So we're getting a hang of it. Some of you like this method, and if you like this method, use it. I'm not telling you otherwise, because this is what you know, this is what works for you. Keep it. Now, some of you might never seen that one. If you have never seen that one, there's another method that I like, and I learned this not too long ago. So, let's see, if I have the same signs, right? The same signs are positive. Happy faces, right? So both of those guys, happy face, Asian happy, right? Okay? So we have both of them positive. That's a good way to remember, right? Because they're smiling, they have the open eyes, kinda, but they're smiling, so they're happy, they're positive, they be positive, right? So if you have the same signs, they're positive. Now, on the other hand, if you have a positive and a negative and a positive, they're sad. It looks like somebody punched them in the eye, right? Maybe they're sick, they're sad. So that tells you that these two right here, they've been negative. because they're sad. They're smiling. They're not smiling. They're being negative.
So there
So they're sad.
So there has
Someone
to be
hurt their feelings.
two negatives in the triangle.
As long as they're the same sign, they're gonna be happy. They're gonna be positive. Even if it's two negatives, because a lot of people make that mistake right here. You have the two negatives and you're thinking about adding and subtracting. I don't want you to do that because we have rules for multiplying and dividing. We have rules, okay? Another way that I can show you is using the kind of like a tic-tac-toe, right? So, we have a box, and I have plus, minus, right? And then you just connect them. If they're the same sign, you're positive, but if they're opposite, it's negative. If they're opposite, it's negative, and if they're the same, it's positive. So that's another way. This is actually the first one that I learned.
What?
But I think this is easier.
That one looks harder than that.
Which one? Which one looks harder? This
The
one?
that you know.
Yeah, but this is the, like I said, if you go from here to the, I don't know, to the train station, right? You can get different routes, but you can get there, right? As long as you get there, that's what is important. As long as you deliver the correct answer, it doesn't matter what way you take. So, if you like this, write it down on your notes. If you like this, write it down on your notes. But if you like this, write it down on your notes.
Do we write everything in that?
You can write everything down if you want. Now, when it comes a little more complicated, is whenever we got more than just two. Okay? So for instance, if we have, and I'm gonna make small numbers just to give you an idea. If we have 2 times 3 times 2. What's 2 times 3?
6,
6 times 2?
12.
12. So the answer is 12. All of them are positive, so it doesn't matter. That's a natural way to do it, right? But what if I have 2 times a negative 3 times 2? I still got the same numbers. The number and the answer is going to be 12. But now, is it going to be positive or negative? And we're going to determine that. So, and how we do that? Is this positive or negative? Positive, because if this one doesn't have a sign, remember, if it doesn't have a sign, it's automatically positive, right? Positive times a negative gives you a negative. Now, a negative times a positive is going to give you a negative. So your answer is negative 12. Okay? Now, let's use the same numbers, different signs. So I'm going to have negative 2 times 3 times negative 2. Let's see what we get. The number is going to be 12 again because I didn't change the numbers, right? So now let's look at the signs. So we have negative times a positive.
It's a positive.
Negative times a positive is negative. Negative and a positive is negative. So negative 6 times a negative 2. Now, two negatives make a positive. So my answer stays positive. Okay? So you come back and forth. Now if you have negative 2 times negative 3 times negative 2. Let's see what happens on that one. What do you think is going to be?
Positive.
Y'all think it's going to be positive?
Wait.
Yes, positive.
Yeah, no, it's negative.
It's gonna be positive.
It's positive.
Okay, let's look at that. The number is going to be what? 12, right?
Yeah.
Negative times a negative gives you a positive. Now, a positive times a negative gives you a,
Negative.
so the answer has to be negative. So if you had an odd number of negatives, remember, an odd number of negatives, the answer is going to be negative. If you had an even number of negatives, the answer is going to be positive. So, odd, I only have one negative in here, right? 1 is an odd number, so my answer is negative. This one I have how many negatives? 3. 3 is an odd number, so my answer is negative. How many negatives do I have in here?
1,
2.
2. It's an even number of negatives, so my answer is positive. Okay, so that's a good thing to keep in mind as well. Any more questions about signs?
No, sir.
And again, this is for multiplication and division only. For adding or subtracting, works completely different. That's it for today, guys. Have a good day. Thank you.